That's right. You guys never have to wonder about a question. Within seconds, you know the answer to anything you need to know.
So my dad is like super into English and like he knows every single word what it is, and it really bothers me. He's like, hey dad, like what does this word mean? And he's like, we have a dictionary, go look it up. And like he will take my phone until I go look up the dictionary.
The question I posed the other day is, when was the first dictionary invented? And I didn't know the answer to that, but maybe you check that, because it seems to me that it's actually pretty unique to English. I mean, obviously there's the OED, the Oxford English Dictionary, which is like the monster of dictionaries. But it seems to me Noah Webster's significant in coming up with a dictionary.
It was Johnson's Dictionary, April 15th, 1755. The publisher was William Stratton, and the author was Samuel Johnson.
Oh, the great critic Samuel Johnson. There you go. He's also the one that put Shakespeare's folio together for the...
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the video, like, the history of the English language in 10 minutes?
Oh my god,
No.
that's so bad.
I love it. You should probably look it up. I think they talk about the invention of the
They do.
dictionary in there.
Because English being a real hodgepodge, which is Hungarian. So it's a mishmash, which is Yiddish. It's an olio, which I think is French. It's a mixture. I think that's English.
Who really knows that?
You ended up needing something like that because there's so many different intermixed Latin. I said yesterday to folks, are you all gung-ho about, something? And they said, so what is gung-ho? Where did that come from? This is logic. We're talking about definitions. We're talking about etymology. Where's the source of these words, right? If you trace them back. And gung-ho, we use, that's like an English word, right? Everybody uses that, I think. But it comes from Chinese. Gung-ho fat choi is what they were all just saying to celebrate the New Year. Chinese, gung-ho fat choi means Happy New Year. So gung-ho. I think it got picked up during the Korean War. You could probably figure out where these things come from as well. I don't know, but that's kind of fascinating. So I think the first dictionaries were in English, and then it kind of, like other things, spread, and they came up with other obvious languages needed dictionaries too, and they realized it. Some of them aren't real dictionaries. Like I have an Athabascan dictionary, which is actually 4 different dictionaries in one, because there's 4 different regional dialects. I think there's more than that, but they, in putting the book together, they put 4 together. So if you're looking up a word, you have to look it up in 4 different sections to try to see what it might be in English. So it's very confusing. I also have a Yupik dictionary, which has over 2,000 loan words from Russian, which is pretty interesting. But Samoan is the language that puzzles me the most because it's just so primitive, actually. I mean, there's such a small vocabulary. I had one student in class years ago. Maybe if I repeat myself, you can throw a sock at me. But she was all learning English, and she said, I want to learn to use big words. And I said, well, you have to get a thesaurus. She loved the sound of that, so she spent a long time trying to figure out what that was. And I said, well, you can look it up in the dictionary, because she had the dictionary. So she was looking, couldn't find it. She was looking up saurus, because she thought I said the saurus. So we fixed that. So she actually got a thesaurus, and she's sitting in class another time, and she's, why are there so many words? Because she's looking at child, basically, and you have children, child, kid, tot, tyke, rugrat, infant, neonate, ankle biter. Actually, no, I don't remember that one being there, but you get the idea.
Dr. Stone in the English department has this really interesting upper division class on the history of the English language. Actually, at one point, when France occupied England for so long, so many words were taken from French that they joked, a linguist had joked that at one point we were just a dialect of French, English was. But it's really interesting
60%
because
roughly of our vocabulary is French, apparently, in English. And yet we're a Saxon-based language.
but colonialism just brought in so many loan words
Iroquois,
from
democracy. No, democracy is Greek. But the Iroquois natives had what became the template for our Constitution, I guess, which is pretty interesting. Okay, so I don't know what got me onto that, but that sounded like something. Something I should have mentioned with Pascal. I don't think I even have it in my notes. Maybe I do, but the another famous thing I mentioned the triangle. I mentioned the calculating machine, but he also has. Perhaps the most famous thing is his wager. If you're familiar with the Pascal's wager, that's kind of one of the things everybody has to be familiar with. Because if you're at a cocktail party and someone's Pascal's wager, and you're like, what? That's bad. You don't want to tell people you're from UAA if you don't know what the wager is. So the wager is basically, does God exist or does God not exist? It's like a 50-50 shot. You have no idea, right? And so he says, but if you break it down, you could draw a chart, right? So if you believe in God and God exists, you have a limited bet. You just have to give up a few things in this temporary life, right? So it's a finite gamble, right? But the payoff is an infinite reward. So like if you go to a race and there's a race between two horses and it's a 50-50, the stats on the two horses are 50-50, and it's $1 to bet on the horse, and if you win, you get $1 million. You'd be an idiot not to bet on those odds. 50-50, $1 million payoff, right? It'd be on two horses. So I mean, it's 50-50. $1, I could get $1 million. That's like a real opportunity. So that would be if you believed in God and God exists, you get $1 million. An infinite payoff. If, on the other hand, you have the limited gamble and it turns out that God doesn't exist, you just lose that $1. It's a limited loss. On the other hand, if God doesn't exist, no, I screwed up the whole thing. So 50-50, right? So if you gamble, I think I actually gave you the whole thing. In other words, the whole point is you might as well gamble on God existing, because the mathematical odds, etc., 50-50, and so might as well bet. So whether or not you believe any of it or not, it's just 50-50. Of course, there are weaknesses to that. You could apply that to all the gods that are out there. So that it's not really one of those arguments that you want to take to the bank or anything. However, I neglected to mention it, and it's really famous. So, But we were talking about Spinoza. I guess, why do I link to a link to a link? That's pretty weird. Spinoza. So I think we were talked. He was a student of the scriptures in the synagogue, but he basically applied the idea that the book was human, a human book written by human people for a particular time, and applied it to that. Got in trouble, of course, with the synagogue because his conclusions were unorthodox, but very much in tune, even though not exactly the same, as the conclusions that contemporary scholarship will make about it. I mean, that's certainly been very interesting how that continues on. A lot of that happened because of the Reformation. People deciding, oh, well, so we should read the Bible for ourselves. So everybody started getting translations so that they could read it. We're even doing much more effort trying to read the Bible in its original texts and so on. And the end result is that you get a plethora of interpretations. And so the end result of all of that, really, I would argue, over the ages, has been atheism. Because in a sense, an awful lot of things that are believable when everybody believes it, and the authority says you should believe it, well, you believe it. But when everybody has their own opinion, it turns out that everything seems nonsensical, and the end result is non-belief is the common result of those who are actually the intellectuals that do all the work. So the more you study it, the more it seems totally unlikely that the fantastic things were possible. Certainly we accept that Jesus was alive, that a lot of the stories about him were true, the Jesus Seminar, roughly 700 scholars that meet every 2 years, are in agreement with like maybe 90% of the sayings of Jesus, and agree that those were actually said by an individual named Jesus, and that's what was so significant about him. Honest to Jesus, etc. And so, you know, that's a book, Honest to Jesus by Robert Funk, and so on. So lots of that's so lots of stuff that's believable, absolutely. I guess the most interesting, successful conclusion comes from James D.G. Dunn, who is a theologian in St. Andrews. He was in St. Andrews. I don't know where he is now. And he has a book called, well, he's got lots of them, actually, but so Durham.